I don't think Starfield is a bad game. The immense hype that was there, leading up to launch, the release, that's well and truly gone. But the same can be said for the real hatred that other people had for it. There was plenty of that, but that seems to have disappeared as well. People just don't seem to care anymore. What people have collectively come together and agreed upon, though, it seems like, is that it's a middling game. It doesn't do anything particularly well. It doesn't do anything particularly badly either. That's a lie. The exploration is terrible. It's full of fetch quests. They're boring. It feels unfinished. And all of this is starting to make people think about The Elder Scrolls 6, because that was seen as the juggernaut. It was going to be the game to change all games, innovative, a real experience full of exploration that was just going to change gaming. And now we've got to talk about it. There was an interesting interview with Todd Howard yesterday where he spoke about game design, and he talked about certain features being removed from Starfield. In this instance, it was planet affliction. Basically, you'll receive environmental damage based on what planet you're on. It could be radiation, it could be thermal. But Todd's dumbed it right down. He took a lot of this out of the game, and why did he do it? It's because Bethesda love to dumb things down. They've been doing this ever since Oblivion, when they realised the console market was much more profitable than the PC. It's not a big deal in itself, but it got me thinking. The best way to describe Starfield is that it bit off much more than it could chew. And the end result is that Bethesda have limitations, whether they know it or not. People can talk about the creation engine all day long, but outside of environmental storytelling, Bethesda just don't really have any strengths anymore. What I mean by that is, they aren't the best at combat. We saw with Dark Souls, after that came out, which was post-Skyrim, that game set the standard for sword and sorcery style combat. Not every RPG has to be like Dark Souls, but they just really raised the bar much further than what Skyrim delivered in that area. If we're talking about the gunplay of Starfield, it's middling. It's average. You don't really think about it. The main story, it feels like it exists to take you to different places. It's almost like a taxi. It takes you to where the content is. It's not super interesting by itself. It's not a massively strong piece of content on its own. The characters, they feel like when you're watching a show you like, and it gets to maybe Season 8, Season 9, it's past its prime, the actors are leaving, and they have to introduce new characters to replace them. And they all feel much worse. They feel just like weaker versions of what we had in the past. And Starfield characters give me that feeling. All the Starfield characters, they're Season 8, they're Season 9 characters. They're not prime Season 2 characters. There's just not that many memorable ones. I did mention environmental storytelling earlier, and we all know that was really lacking in Starfield. If that has been their only strength in the past, to remove that, it really highlighted the weaknesses of Bethesda. We've all had that experience with some of their previous games where you're wandering around the world and you find something cool. It doesn't have to be something huge. It could be you find a note from a kid apologising for setting his parents on fire. You allow their pet pig to eat them. And then later in the game you kill a pig and its corpse has a lootable item. It's called Bones of Parents. It's just little things like that. It makes their games unique compared to the other usual, typical open world gameplay loop of do main mission, go to the icon on the map, do an activity, you pick up a pointless collectible. All of this over and over again. Bethesda games didn't do that so much. They felt unique, like wherever you went, the next settlement you found, the next cave, the next building you enter, that you could find something interesting, different than what you found before. It didn't feel like copy and pasted activities. It's clear to me now that Bethesda just aren't 100% sure what direction they should be going in. We saw aspects of randomly generated Radiant quests in Skyrim. You know, the boring ones like collect 5 pieces of bread, pick up 3 stones and return them, kill 10 trolls. It's the MMO quests. They're boring. I think Bethesda should have either considered those a failure or just a fairly useless piece of content that is only relevant for people in tears over reaching the end credits of the game. They shouldn't be a highlighted piece of content. They're okay if you want more to do, quantity over quality, but not something to get anyone excited about. They then made a return in Fallout 4. Okay, I would have preferred you replaced the whole system with some real dialogue options, but sure, it was still a fairly fun game. Then Starfield goes off the rails. No longer do we have random quests, we've actually got an entire exploration function that has become a Radiant quest. Exploring becomes totally pointless. Oh cool, I explored a cave and I found nothing. I explored another cave, I still found nothing. No, I'm being disingenuous. I found a rock in that last cave. I can cut it up and I can loot it. Or a mineral, as some bald-headed guy once told me. But that brings me to Elder Scrolls 6. If Bethesda have lost the knack for exploration and were willing to randomize it, how are they going to bring it back for their flagship series? Sure, some might argue that because Starfield was in space, they had to go in that direction. They cannot hand design 50 million planets. The only solution was to make 99.9% of them pointless. That was the only option. I'll tell you what, I'm not buying that because no one told them to make that game. No one told them to make Starfield as it is. They could have made a space game where there are a handful of fully explorable planets. Or at least hand-designed regions of the planets. They could have been similar in size, scope, to Skyrim and Fallout 4 as a whole, and they could have either scrapped the randomized planets or left them in, but kept it as more of a side system to make the world feel bigger. Don't make it something where Todd gets up on stage and you can go to this planet, you can go to that planet. It shouldn't really have been a core strength, supposedly, of the game, because it's weak. Going to the planets, landing, it is weak in almost all cases. It's concerning to me that Bethesda would seemingly abandon exploration in a major title. If you asked 100 random Elder Scrolls enjoyers what their favourite thing about the series is, I think it's going to be the exploration. It's going to be exploring a vast world, finding hidden details, little story moments in the unknown. When you are just wandering that landscape and taking everything at your own pace. To see that replaced with copy and pasted locations, they all feel the same, it's all robotic, nothing feels unique. If you find a quest, it's likely going to be asking you to collect 10 bear pelts, kill 10 aliens, bring the materials back. If that's their future, it's looking grim. There are so many developers now doing RPGs better. When Skyrim came out, there wasn't a lot out there that wasn't sort of super niche and unknown. It was a major hit because of that. All this content, explore an open world. That sort of stuff just wasn't done on home consoles. There were MMOs and other PC games that came before, but that was the real mainstream breakthrough. And I think Bethesda have maybe gotten complacent. I said early on that Bethesda bit off more than they can chew, and that is in the fact that they probably thought early on that they were going to create this sprawling universe that was going to be really fun, but Todd said something extremely telling. I think it was during one of the interviews during that sort of big media push for Starfield a few months ago. He said something like, the game only became fun a year ago. What part of that was it, Todd? Was it the main story and just doing the quests? That became fun? Because sure, I enjoyed it, but I think Todd is kidding himself if he thinks that the exploration and going to random planets is fun for anyone. I see some people perhaps coping, talking about it. There really was someone who did speak about going to a cave and thinking, wow, this is incredible, there's nothing here, but I found this in the vast unknown. I just don't really get it. I think that some people wanted to love the game, which is fair enough. It's been a long time between drinks. We got Fallout 76, which at the time, it seemed like a joke. This can't be real. It's got to be some sort of spin-off. And I thought that at the time too. I thought that Bethesda created Fallout 4, a spin-off team created Fallout 76, and Starfield was going to be just around the corner, maybe releasing in 2020. But now I kind of think, I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that maybe Todd was fully involved in and invested in that. And they thought it was actually good. It wasn't just a cash grab. Because otherwise, Starfield took something like 8 years to create, and While again, I enjoy some aspects, I just don't think it was worth it. So Elder Scrolls 6, I think the only way it can be successful is if Bethesda eat some humble pie and sort of step back a little bit. And they accept that they just need to create a world that's interesting. It doesn't need to be huge. I'm sick of AAA games that just keep getting bigger and bigger, because when you do that, it's all copy and pasted content. And once you do one or two activities, you realize you've done it all and you do not want to complete the game. Look at the Assassin's Creed entries from the last few years. They're so huge, they're so sprawling, but they feel so pointless. And Elder Scrolls can't go in that direction if Bethesda are going to remain a juggernaut, if they are at all. I'm worried that Microsoft curse, we've seen it with Halo and other franchises, that they could disappear. Rare, that's another developer that sort of fell a little bit from grace. They've had some more recent titles, Sea of Thieves. Some people seem to like them. I don't know about it, but I don't want to see Bethesda go in that same direction. So they've got to refocus, look at their strengths. I would like to see a decent Elder Scrolls, a decent Fallout 5, if that ever comes out, if Todd's not retired by then. But if they can't do it, then at least we've got other developers now, like Larian. There's plenty that can at least fill that void. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what Todd comes up with. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.